Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all doing well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading. I like to read diverse books and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thank you so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. It is great to have you as part of the community. Today I am going to be talking about some of the books that I've received or hauled from publishers. Over the last few months, it's been a while since I've done a haul video. Like I'm thinking January was my last one. So I'm going to catch up with these. I also have books that I've hauled from the Republic of Consciousness. If you've been watching, you know that I get books from them. And books that I've also hauled for the Reading Across Canada book club that I run. And it really has been a lot of fun. So there's a lot of books to talk about. So let's get started. If we look at where we left off for the TBR Stack, again, I think it was the end of January, we were at 1,515. And I know that with this haul, it's going to go much higher because it has been several months and I'm only, talking about books that are coming in right now, if that makes sense. But I assure you that I've also read some books, however, not as much as I normally would. So we'll see where that ends up when I do my wrap-ups. So we'll see where this number for the TBR stack, if it comes down at all at any time. But for now, we know it's going to go up. So first, let's take a look at the books that were sent to me from publishers. And we're going to begin with Arsenal Pulp Press. So this might be a surprise since many of you know that I don't really read graphic novels. I've read a few, but it is definitely not a genre or a style that I go to first. I'm not really drawn to it. However, when I was asked about considering reviewing this book, I had to say yes. It was published on April 22nd. And it's called The Dissident Club, Chronicle of a Pakistani Journalist in Exile. It's by Taha Siddiqui. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. And it's illustrated by Hubert Maury, translated from the French by David Homel. So this is a memoir, and I'm always curious when someone puts their memoir into a graphic novel format. The topic is also very timely. It is a coming of age story, and this story follows Taha as he enters university and becomes a journalist. And then in 2018, Taha is kidnapped at gunpoint and he barely escapes being killed. He flees the country on the first plane to France. And once he's in Paris, Taha opens the Dissident Club, which is a bar that is dedicated to helping political dissidents from around the world. So that's kind of interesting. And I just think that this is going to be an intense read in a lot of ways. So we will see how it goes as a graphic novel. So with this book from Arsenal Pulp, it brings the TBR stack to 1,516. From Bookhug Press, I have several books from Bookhug Press. And first up is a debut poetry collection that was published on April the 8th. It's called No One Knows Us There. This is by Jessica Bebeneck. The poems in this collection are divided into two sections or two timelines, I guess. So the first part follows a granddaughter who is navigating all that being a caregiver brings, including palliative care. So that's something that's close to my heart, as some of you know. And then the second takes place like 10 years later and reflects back on her younger self. And it is a collection about grief and healing, which is pretty spot on for me right now. So I'm really looking forward to checking this poetry collection out. Next is a book that was published on April the 15th. And this is an author that I really think I'm going to like. And in fact, I have their other book sitting on my shelf, waiting very patiently to be read. So I really need to prioritize this author. This is Elseship by Tree Abraham. And this is a memoir that I think I had this on my most anticipated books of 2025 in the first half of the year. I will leave a link below to those videos of my most anticipated books of 2025. There's some pretty cool books in there that I'm looking forward to. So in this memoir, the author, Tree, who identifies as queer and asexual, they fall in love with her housemate, who does not reciprocate the feelings. So Elseship takes a look at this transitioning relationship as it becomes an Elseship. So I'm looking forward to reading this. Okay, moving on. This was a book that was published on April 24th. It is a debut novel, and it's called I Remember Lights, and it's by Ben Ladouceur, I'm not sure. Ladouceur, maybe? This is a debut novel. It's historical fiction that begins in 1967 at Expo 67, to be specific. So in the summer of 67, love was a big topic, but some forms of love were criminal. They were a crime. So this story follows a man in Montreal as he learns about gay life and queer life. And then 10 years later, the story takes us to the police raid that happened at the gay bar called Trucks, Truxx. So that was also in Montreal. And this story explores the choices that people have had to make between happiness and safety. So again, I think that this is a very timely book, and I've heard good things. So I'm hoping I will like that one as well. On May 1st, the Fun Times Brigade by Lindsay, Zier, Vogel was published. And this is the author of Letters to Amelia that I talked about on my channel at some point last year. And I really enjoyed that book, so I'm hoping to enjoy this one as well. Fun fact about this book, and it's especially for those of you who are Canadian and I would say around my age, the author interviewed Fred Penner and Sharon and Brom from Sharon, Lois, and Brom. You'll know what I'm talking about if you're Canadian. If you don't know who these people are, they are children's entertainers, very popular in Canada. They're musicians and singers. So this book supposedly takes us on a deep dive into the world of kids' music. So that just sounds like fun. So this story follows Amy, who is a new mother, and she feels that she is losing her identity in this new motherhood. And I'm hoping that this will just be a feel-good book in the end. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the music will play a role in this. So with these 4 books from Book Hug Press, that puts the TBR at 1,520. Okay, next from Highwater Press is this beautiful book. It's called REDress. It's edited by Jaime Black-Morsette. And there is a play on the words with the title, because you could read it as REDress or as REDress. My hope was to read this in May, and May is when we have REDress Day, which remembers missing and murdered Indigenous women and children and two-spirited people. So since that didn't happen, because I didn't get to it, it is now part of my June reading for Indigenous Peoples Month. And if you aren't aware of the REDress project, it began as an art installation in 2010 by the artist and editor of this book, Jaime Black-Morsette. So the art display consists of placing red dresses in public spaces, and this was as a call for justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women and children. And it's a large issue, and the red dresses ignite a reclamation of voice and place And just the symbol of the red dress, the empty red dress, endures because families continue to call for action when it comes to their missing loved ones. So I will put a picture up of some of the red dresses displayed in Calgary this year. So this anthology includes Indigenous women, elders, some grassroots community activists, artists, academics, and then family members who have all been affected by this tragedy. So I have flipped through this book, and I think it's quite beautiful. I think it's very well done. I can't wait to read it, and then I will tell you more about it. So this brings the TBR to 1521. Okay, next up is a book from Simon & Schuster Canada on June 10th. This is another debut novel, and it's called Meridian by Grace Flahive. So this is coming out on June 10th, and this is a book about aging and friendship. It takes place in 2062 at a retirement resort for queer women in Florida. And the story takes place really in one day, which happens to be the last day of one of the residents. Her name is Hannah Carden. And it's her last day of life, and she has opted for MAID, or medically assisted in death. And so this night, her friends plan to throw her an end-of-life party. And while the story takes place in one day, we also get flashbacks of Hannah's life as she reflects back on the last 70 years. So this is supposed to have some really lovable characters, and it just sounds like it might be a lot of fun. At least I'm hoping that that's the case. And that brings the TBR to 1522. Next, from the University of Calgary Press, is a debut collection of short stories, which is being published on June 15th. And this is called Rag Pickers by Blaine Newton. It has 18 short stories, and these stories are described as really, really funny, heartbreaking. They are about loneliness and the human condition. So this looks like it will be a quick read. It's less than 200 pages. I'm not sure exactly. But this puts the TBR stack at 1523. Okay, next are a couple of books that authors have sent me. And first is someone that you may have seen on my channel before. The book is A Season in the Okanagan by Bill Arnott. And I chatted with Bill Arnott after reading his book, A Perfect Day for a Walk. So I will link that video below so you can check that out. But A Season in the Okanagan was just published in April. And this is just it's a sweet little book. Like, it's actually little. I'll show you the difference here. There's also some beautiful artwork throughout this. And this book brings us from Vancouver through BC's Okanagan region, which is a really beautiful part of Canada. It's big for tourism. It's good for wineries. I'm really looking forward to reading this for myself to hopefully learn more about the area, because I do travel in that area of BC once in a while to visit family. So I'm hoping that I will find out about some new gems, that I can put onto my Explore for the next time that I visit. So I'm also hoping to chat to Bill again, and he can tell us more about this book and about writing the book. So that'll be really good. And then coming out sometime in June is Charity Trickett is Not So Glamorous, and this is by Christine Stringer. I talked about this in my most anticipated reads of 2025, I believe part 2, so I will link that below. This takes place in the 1990s, and it follows Charity Trickett, who moves to LA, and her big dream is to become a screenwriter and producer. But Hollywood isn't, what she has imagined it would be. So this is a fiction story, but it does say that it's inspired by a true story. So that's interesting too. So with these two books from authors, that brings the TBR stack to 1525. So next up, I have a couple of books from the Republic of Consciousness. And first is a fiction dystopian book that is also a quick read with about 125 pages. And it's called Invisible Dogs by Charles Boyle. So this is a travel diary of an English writer who is invited to a country in which there are no dogs. Can you imagine? But he keeps seeing them vanishing around corners. He's seeing these dogs. So there are rumors of dogs gathering in the mountains, preparing for an assault on the city. And in some ways, this totally sounds like it's not my thing. And then in other ways, it totally sounds like it is my thing. So we will see where I end up landing with it once I get a chance to read it. So the other book from the Republic of Consciousness is called The Rupture Files by Nathan Alexander Moore. It is also coming in at 150 pages, so another quick read if that's something that you're looking for. This is a debut collection of short stories, and they have a supernatural element to them, or at least some of them do, which again is sometimes totally my thing and sometimes totally not my thing. So the stories have Black queer characters. There are shapeshifters, which is cool, that's fine. But I think that there's also vampires, which is totally not my thing at all. So we will see how these stories go for me. With these two books from the Republic of Consciousness, that brings the TBR stack to 1,527. Okay, the last category of books, I guess, are books that I hauled for the Reading Across Canada book club, which is lots of fun. In March, we read The Adversary by Michael Crummey, and we read another book by him, which I absolutely loved, that was called The Innocents. And this book, The Adversary, has connections to that story. It takes place in the same isolated area in Newfoundland. And the main character is Abe Strapp, and he's about to marry the daughter of a rival merchant, basically to cement his hold on the shore. But then Widow Keynes arrives, and basically to throw everything into chaos. And it's a story of sabotage and revenge. And I haven't yet read it, even though we did talk about it in March. I know. In April, we read The Syrian Ladies' Benevolent Society by Christine Estema. And this is a collection of interconnected stories, which is my favorite kind of short story collections, I guess. I enjoy when they're interconnected. And this follows an Arab family. It highlights the women especially, and the immigrant experience. So they come from the Middle East in the 19th century. They end up in Montreal in the 20th century. And then there's the tension between tradition and modernity in the 21st century. And then in May, we read A History of Burning by Yannicka Oza. And this was inspired by the interview that my friends at Canada Reads American Style did with the host of Canada Reads, Ali Hassan. So they were talking with him about this, and they asked him what book he would choose to defend. And this is the book that he said he would choose if he were a defender on Canada Reads. So I will leave a link below to the interview that they did with him. Ali Hassan always does a great job with interviews. But this is another debut novel. It spans 4 generations. It begins in India when Purbe is looking for work and ends up being taken to work on the East African Railway for the British. And the story then goes to Uganda and follows Purbe's 3 granddaughters, and they come of age in a very divided nation. And then once again, they really have no choice, but they have to flee again. But they reconnect in Canada. So I look forward to telling you more about this book when I do my wrap up. Okay, so with these 3 books, That leaves the TBR stack at 1,530. So there will be several books coming off the TBR, as I said before, once I do my wrap up. So all is not lost on that goal to get below 1,500. It's still within, sight. There's several books here that I'm really excited to read. Thanks again to the publishers and to the authors for sending me some of these books. I look forward to reading them. Let me know if you have read any of these, or if you are interested in reading any of them, which ones kind of pique your curiosity, or what books have you hauled that you are most looking forward to reading. Because whenever I haul books, I always want to read them all at the same time. So I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.